question may arise which may require you to give the ways of reducing the shortcomings of the price mechanism or the demerits of the price mechanism. And again, we have already given the reasons as to why government may interfere in the price mechanism. And now, this second part is simply showing us how government does that, or how government interferes using those various methods. And these methods or ways are again enumerated here. Government can try to make sure that public goods are provided. We noted that public goods may be ignored by the price mechanism because they don't attract profitability. So government will come in and provide the public goods itself. So this is one way of reducing the shortcomings of the price mechanism. Price mechanism not being interested in provision of public goods, so will they be completely left out? No. Government will take on the duty of providing those public goods. Then progressive taxation should be used to reduce income inequality. Who taxes? Again, it is the government. But you are taxing, it is taxing in a progressive way, meaning that the higher the income, the higher the percentage of tax you pay, and the lower the income, the less the tax you pay, or even you may be exempted from paying a tax if you really have no income or very low levels of income. So government implements progressive taxes so that from the rich, a bigger amount of money is taken away from them, and then from the poor, a small amount of money is taken away from them, so that both parties can be able to enjoy a reasonable standard of living. So the poor people are left with a bigger percentage of their income, whereas the rich people, a bigger part of their income is taxed, and that amount of money is used by government, as already noted, to provide the public goods and also to subsidize the other producers. Anti-monopoly laws should be implemented. We have seen that one demerit of a price mechanism is the emergence of monopoly, but government can now set up anti-monopoly laws, laws which are against the operation of monopoly firms. So whoever wants to operate as a monopolist, the laws are always there to regulate him or her, and you are not going to be allowed to operate until you are able to satisfy those laws, or you'll be able to abide by what the government wants you to follow, so that you don't exploit the consumers in terms of quantity and quality. And regulatory bodies should be set up for quality and quantity control. Again, this is a result of the monopolies who no longer have any competitors, and they are going to take advantage of lack of competition to produce low quality products and also limit the quantity or limit the output. Government, therefore, will come in with bodies that are going to make sure that the standards for quality are satisfied, and also an ample quantity is available on the market at a reasonable price for the purpose of enabling everybody enjoy those goods without any problem. Heavy taxes should be imposed on demerit goods. Demerit goods, I've already seen that these are the ones which attract a lot of money, because in most cases the consumers are addicted to them. They cannot do without them, and they are ready to offer high prices for these demerit goods. They are detrimental to one's health, but you find that once people are addicted, they don't mind about that. So government comes in and taxes these commodities highly. Alcohol, cigarettes, and all the others. It takes a bigger fraction of tax from them, and the bigger tax makes them to be expensive. And when you go back to the theory of demand, the higher the price, the less the quantity demanded of that commodity whose price is high. So demerit goods are made to be expensive. And if they're expensive, they are carrying very high prices which are not attractive to the consumers according to the law of demand. So fewer people will be demanding them, hence reducing their production and also their consumption. Then weak farms can be subsidized to provide unemployment and monopoly. It has been again seen that the weak farms are going to be outcompeted because of their inefficiency. So government would not just look on and see people just get out of business or get out of work. It is its duty to make sure that these weak farms remain operating, because whatever they were producing was essential and vital to the society. So these are going to be subsidized. And we see that a subsidy is simply an amount of money or help from the government that is geared at reducing the cost of production. So the cost of production is shared between the government and the farm, so that in the long run the prices are low and you can compete with these others in terms of prices, and you are not going to assist in creating monopolies, as you are not going to be allowed to run out of business and leave only a few. No, you will remain there, you'll be sustained by the subsidy offered to you by the government, and you can ably compete with the others in the private sector as the price mechanism requires, other than running out of business. Government should establish its own industries for fair competition with the private sector. For those commodities which the private sector is providing at a high price and which are profitable, they should not be left to the private sector alone. No, government can also, it has the resources, it has the power, and it has the duty to its people to establish its own industries and be the competitor with the private sector, so that there is an increase in supply of goods and services, and also where there is competition, prices are going to be relatively low and affordable to the majority of the people, hence improving on the people's welfare. We have consumer associations can be encouraged to protect the consumer interests. Consumers can come together, and as the saying goes, united we stand. So consumers' voice is going to be now loud, because there are many under the association, and they can always try to protect their interests or their rights with regard to particular commodities which should appear on the market for their own consumption. Price controls or price legislation should be enforced to check fluctuations and economic instabilities. So these are to do with inflation, and government can come in, control the price either at a minimum level or at a maximum level, so that nobody is allowed to sell above the minimum price or to sell below the maximum price. And it's only government which enforces the price controls, and it becomes illegal for anybody to sell above or below the legislated price. So here prices are going to be stable. The moment you legislate it at a certain price, it is going to be that one. Do not move up, it may not move down, but you have fixed it. It is the same as price fixing. Something fixed, or you are pegging it there. Like you put a peg on your piece of cloth to dry. You find that it's fixed there, it does not move. However much wind may come, it only swings but does not move away from where it was pegged. Even the prices are pegged there. They are not going to change. They will not fluctuate, and you find that this is going to be a lot of good to the economy, in that prices are not fluctuating now and again. Then proper planning can be carried out by government to avoid scarcity and wastages. Planning, we saw that is a major characteristic in communist economies or centrally planned economies, and we find that there is need for proper planning so that you avoid scarcity. Government can plan to supply a given product in the required quantities so that there is no shortage and there are no surpluses or wastages of the resources, which is or no currency that appears under the price mechanism. Scarcities are created whenever an item is out of short supply. Wastages are created because of wasteful competition. So these can be moderated and regulated by the government via planning so that you avoid the scarcity and the wastages. Lastly, government can embark on rationing of commodities at an administered price for the social well-being of everybody. So if the commodities are maybe in scarce supply, then you can ration them out. Allocate a certain quantity of those vital goods like soap, sugar, and maybe salt or even paraffin in those olden days when we used to have scarcity of these goods and services in Uganda. Before the reconstruction of our economy, we used to have this kind of rationing. Every week, people would line up for 2 kilograms of sugar, a piece of soap, some salt, and paraffin, because even energy was not there. Many areas had not been able to have electricity, or this kind of electrification was not comprehensive, it was not general, it was not everywhere like it is now. So in those instances, rationing of the scarce commodities has to be there for the purpose of making everybody access that commodity at a reasonable price, other than leaving the price mechanism to allocate those goods to only those who can afford and have the income. So price mechanism only operates for those people who have the money and can afford to pay, but we find that some commodities are so essential that people should not be excluded from their consumption and use. Hence, rationing of these commodities is introduced by the government so that there is an adequate supply to each and every. But it may not be all that much, but at least you are not going to be doing without that particular good at that particular season or scarcity. So generally, those are the policy measures that can be undertaken to minimize the shortcomings of the price mechanism. If you are given a question that what policy measures can be taken to minimize the shortcomings of the price mechanism, you can use the suggestive kind of tense and say government may, that's why I have may there, government should, you are suggesting. It is not that this is what government is doing, no. You are simply somebody who is an economic planner and you are giving a recommendation of what government can do, not what government has done. This is not what government has done, but you are recommending what can be done to rectify the shortcomings of the price mechanism. It may pick on some of them, it may combine some of them, and eventually the economy may become better. But you are suggesting ways of reducing. So you may write providing public goods, taxing progressively, regulating, setting up regulatory bodies, subsidizing with funds, imposing, that is if you are in the present continuous tense, you have you accompany your tense with ing, subsidizing, establishing, encouraging, enforcing, carrying out planning, rationing. But if it is suggestive, what should be done, what can be done, then you can also use a suggestive tense. Government may, government should, government can, depending. And the tenses are very important, especially if you are in paper 2 and you don't use the right tense in your answer, then even if the points are all right, but we are not only interested in the points, but we need good economic planners that are going to give us solutions that are actually tangible. Then you'll not be able to get the marks without the proper tense. Now our next area of consideration is again to do with the price mechanism, and this is the last bit of it. We have to exhaust all the possible areas that are examinable as far as the price mechanism is concerned, so that you don't have any excuse that we never saw that area and now it has come. So why is it that it is not taught and yet it is examinable? That's why we are trying to exhaust all the possible avenues on each topic, so that there is no excuse that this was not having any information given on it. And this is to do with the factors influencing the price mechanism in resource allocation. Meaning that what are the required conditions, what are the prerequisites for the operation or successful operation of the price mechanism. What should be in place if the price mechanism is to operate successfully? So factors influencing price mechanism in resource allocation. Factors influencing the price mechanism in resource allocation, or prerequisites. Prerequisites for the operation of price mechanism. Prerequisites for the operation of the price mechanism. Since we are in a free enterprise economy, definitely requirement number one is availability of capital. Availability of capital. We have another factor like, again, availability of skilled manpower. Skilled manpower. Then we have infrastructure. Infrastructure, e.g. roads and power and energy. Power and energy. We also have the level of degree of monopoly power. Degree of monopoly power. We also have level of ignorance. Level of ignorance or awareness. Level of ignorance or level of awareness by the population. Then level of government interference. Level of government interference. So each of these factors has a role to play in the smooth operation of the price mechanism. Availability of capital. Capital is one of our resources we are talking about. So if one has more capital, then it is going to enable the price mechanism operate smoothly. But in situations where capital is limited and capital is the engine of growth, its absence also makes the production process detrimental, or maybe to be sluggish or slow, and even not to have an ample output of goods and services which may be required, You find that even if the consumers are ready to offer a higher price, but don't have the capital to set up the industries, to buy the imports, to employ, pay the laborers, and so on. So availability of capital is very essential, and wherever it is absent, it makes the price mechanism to at least be inefficient in its operation. Availability of skilled manpower. We have seen that we need to have people that are skilled, and wherever they are skilled, they assist in increasing the amount of goods and services. Not only that, but also the quality. Skilled manpower has the ability of coming out with better quality products than the unskilled. So under the price mechanism, you need people who have capital, and you need them to be skilled. And on top of that, you also need to know the level of entrepreneurship. Level of entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial ability. These are the people who organize the other factors of production. If these people are not there, then you don't be able to have a private sector that is very strong. So if these are many, they are the ones who mobilize the capital and also mobilize the skilled manpower, and then they are going to be able to set up the production ventures that will be providing the required goods and services. Infrastructure, for example, roads and power and energy. If you are an industrialist, definitely with no power, you are going to be limited in your operation. So we need reliable energy and power so that we can be able to continuously produce as prices are increasing, or as people vote towards the production of our commodities, the energy and power is also available, and that continuity in supply can be sustained or achieved. Roads are very important to allow for transportation of goods from one place to another. Remember that under the price mechanism, there is a high degree of arbitrage, where goods are moved from where they are in plenty and at a low price and taken to the other area where they are in short supply and at a higher price, so that in the long run you can stabilize prices or have fair prices in the two regions. Where they were low, they now become high because you take away the surplus, and where the prices were high, now they are going to come down. Why? Because you have brought in more supply of the commodity, which makes the price to go down. So good roads are very important so that you are able to go and fetch commodities where they are in plenty and being sold at a lower price, and then you take them to that other area where they are in short supply and at higher price, so that the infrastructure is very important in regulating supply in the different areas. Where supply is less, it can be increased, and where there is oversupply, this can also be lessened by taking away whatever is in excess and you take it where there are shortages. Then degree of monopoly power. Do you have many producers under the price mechanism? You are supposed to be many. But if you are operating where there should be one producer, then you are limiting the operation of the price mechanism. You are not giving it the necessary condition for its operation. You are bringing in few people, and already seen that monopoly has its own evils, like creating artificial shortages and also working on poor quality products and so on. So you have to examine if at all we are going to be operating in a free enterprise economy under the price mechanism. To what extent is monopoly power allowed in our economy, or are people given that freedom that they need to exercise under the price mechanism? Then level of ignorance or awareness. People, that is both producers and consumers, are shown to be knowledgeable. They should be having the necessary information all the time, though you find that this may not be the case, and that's why adverts are always brought in to make people aware or to minimize their ignorance. And then we have seen that where people are ignorant, usually they are exploited. They are exploited. You buy a good at a higher price when it should not have been at a higher price. You support an inefficient producer, because of your lack of awareness or because of your ignorance. Instead of supporting a producer who is efficient because of your lack of knowledge in the market, you end up encouraging the production of a demerit good and that kind of thing. So all these are necessary if we are to have the price mechanism operate rather smoothly. Then level of government interference. Is government playing its role? Is it leaving the private sector to operate without its interference? Is the price mechanism going to operate without government interference? And that kind of thing. So in some cases, government may be having an upper hand, like we saw in a mixed economy, where it tries to control certain areas which the private sector is ignoring. So you have to make sure that government role is undertaken in the best way possible to provide whatever the price mechanism is leaving out. And we have already seen the level of entrepreneurial ability, where these entrepreneurs are the ones who are the organizers, who are the decision makers, who are the managers of the other factors of production, and they try to bring about the investments into the production of goods and services using the invisible hand or using the price mechanism in the allocation of resources. Are they in plenty or are they few? The more they are, then the more the price mechanism will operate, and the fewer they are, then the less the impact it will be on the price mechanism. We find that a question may arise which may require you to give the positive implication or positive role of these requirements or factors influencing the price mechanism. And whenever you are to give the positive part of the factors influencing the price mechanism, for example, here it would have been level of capital. So that level may be high or low. Then you can also say level of skilled manpower. That level may be high or low. Level of infrastructure development, degree, level, and level, that kind of thing. So here it is neutral, where you are talking of a level, but now they may ask you what are the factors which limit. The moment they ask limitations to the smooth operation of the price mechanism. Limitations to the smooth operation of the price mechanism. Whereas these were now factors influencing, now whenever they are negative, they become a what? A limitation. So level of capital now becomes a limitation when you have limited capital. It is becoming a limitation. It is not allowing the price mechanism to operate freely, as the capital is not ample, it's not enough to facilitate the free operation of the price mechanism. Then inadequate skilled manpower. Wherever these are not in enough supply, they become a limitation. Then poorly developed infrastructure. You cannot say absence of infrastructure. It is there, but it is poorly developed. Infrastructure, and it becomes a hindrance, it becomes a roadblock, it becomes a limitation. Degree of monopoly, then when you have many monopoly firms operating. These are not beneficial as far as the price mechanism is concerned. They are going to be coming out with their evils and they become a limitation. Then high degree of ignorance. in society, where the majority of people lack the necessary information with regard to particular goods and services, hence ending up supporting inefficient producers. That is because of high degree of ignorance. People need to be aware so that they do the needful. Then we have a lot of government interference. And this interference may be in the form of heavy taxes, government taxes which are heavy, and they are taking away a lot of profitability of our private investors. So where government interferes with, let's say, taxing the private sector or the private individuals highly, it is going to be a demerit to these people, a disincentive to invest, taking away their profitability, which first of all is their major goal, and you find that it becomes a limitation to the smooth operation of the price mechanism. The level of entrepreneurial ability, this usually may be inadequate or limited entrepreneurial ability. So you can look at them that limited entrepreneurship, low level of entrepreneurial ability, limits initiative to undertake business ventures in fear of risks involved, thereby hindering efficient allocation of resources. Then irrationality of producers and consumers. Price mechanism fails where producers aim at maximizing profits because they produce less output, and consumers are after utility maximization by looking at for the cheapest goods and services. Limited capital. Inadequate capital leads to inefficient allocation of resources due to reduced capacity to produce goods and services needed on the market. Limited skilled labor. Existence of unskilled and semi-skilled labor leads to low productivity and efficiency in the production of goods and services needed on the market, which is a limitation of the price mechanism. Poor infrastructure or underdeveloped infrastructure. If the roads are poor, you will not even have storage facilities, power shortages, they limit the ability to exploit available resources, and also limit arbitrage, which leads to inefficient allocation of resources. Then poor state of technology. Due to the poor state of technology, there's going to be level of technology. It becomes a limitation when it is poor technology. Poor technology leads to inefficiency. And with inefficiency, there will be low levels of output, and you cannot be able to respond adequately to the demands of the people. We also have political level of political climate. So that climate may be unstable or instability. Political instability becomes a limitation. Political instability. Why? Because people are on the run. They are not producing goods and services to respond to the high prices. It makes the production of goods and services very difficult because investments are destroyed while new investments are being scared off. Then ignorance about market conditions, we have already talked about that one. High level of consumer ignorance denies them the right to consume from the cheapest source. And for that matter, they promote those inefficient producers who would have been out of business, but now they are being promoted due to the ignorance of the consumers who don't know who is an efficient producer and what is the indicator for that level of efficiency. We have a study question here which may go as follows. Explain the hindrances or limitations of the price mechanism in resource allocation. Explain the hindrances or limitations of the price mechanism in resource allocation. So hindrances are here, or the limitations are here, and we need to explain them. How does limited capital affect the price mechanism? It will limit output. Inadequate skilled manpower, poorly developed infrastructure, many monopoly firms, high degree of ignorance, a lot of government interference, limited entrepreneurability, poor technology, political instability. They are already in the negative here. Here they were neutral, but have extracted out the negative, which poses a limitation, and then you can go ahead and explain how they bring about a problem which would have been a benefit as far as monopoly is concerned. So that is the end of our price theory and the price mechanism as such. In our next lesson, we are going to study production, which is our third topic on the syllabus. May you be blessed.